an overlay district over designated portions of the township to allow development of a community of persons 55 years of age and over, which provide for a variety of residential housing types and recreational facilities. The overlay district may apply to those parcels of land that include a declaration that at least one occupant of any dwelling unit is at least 55 years of age or older. The property that is currently designated to be included in each qualified overlay district is the 168 tract of land located along Route 13, Tollgate Road, and Bowling Mill Road in Middletown Township, Bucks County, Pennsylvania, more formally known as Bucks County Tax Parcel ID number 22-005-007, referred commonly as the Stone Farm. The point of an overlay district is to create an additional special zoning district over top of an existing base zoning district. The existing zoning district on the Stone Farm is only RA3 and RA2. It cuts the pretty almost in half. Those zoning districts will remain on the Stone Farm property. If this ordinance is passed, this will just an additional regulations on the property. The board may recall that we discussed the drafting and advertising of this proposed ordinance at a meeting in November of 21, in which there was a presentation regarding possible future development of the Stone Farm if a settlement occurred between the parties. The proposed ordinance that was drafted was modeled after the township's existing age-qualified community zoning district. It was almost copied pretty much word for word. We actually reduced just the density permitted on it. Some of the site regulations that apply to the ordinance are a maximum density of 2 units per acre, a maximum impervious surface of 40%, a maximum building coverage of 20%. There is a minimum site requirement for any age-qualified community of 5 acres. There are a required 3 housing types required if the acreage is over 125 acre land, but only 1 housing type if it's under 125 acres of land. There is a minimum open space requirement of 35% of the gross site area for any community. There's also 25-foot buffer yard requirements along property lines. There's also a requirement that there is a pedestrian circulation system required as part of any kind of development within a qualified community. When proposing such zoning change ordinance, we usually try to review a traffic impact analysis and other types of analysis. We looked at this. An age-qualified community would actually decrease traffic to 1/3 of what a single-family development community would cause. Also, we looked at a fiscal impact analysis that showed an estimated positive surplus of tax revenue to the township and school district of over $1.5 million compared to what a single-family development would bring in. The proposed ordinance was sent to the Bucks County Planning Commission and the Township Planning Commission for review. And they found that the proposed ordinance is compatible with the surrounding uses and consistent with the township comprehensive plan. The Bucks County Planning Commission did not have any concerns with the ordinance, and the Township Planning Commission recommend approval of the ordinance. I'm going to recommend to the board tonight, after the hearing for this ordinance concluded, the board continues the vote on the ordinance until the May 2nd Board of Supervisors meeting. The reason for continuing this vote, as everyone knows, it is related to the next agenda item regarding the stipulation. And there are a couple items that are still needed to be received. But we will hold the hearing tonight to get all comments on the ordinance. If the board was inclined to approve both the ordinance and settlement discussed later on, certain items will still need to be obtained. Does the board have questions regarding the ordinance?
I don't have questions. Should we make a motion to continue at this time and then hear public comment once there's a motion, or should we close the record first?
I don't want to close the record because there's technically party status. If they wanted to put anything else on the record for it, we allow anybody, Mr. Simpson or Mr. Gunlack, if they want to put anything on, certainly can. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, this is for party status. We will have public comment for you to speak as well. At this point, we're just going to allow them, Mr. Gunlack or Mr. Sverson.
Nothing further than we'll already put in the record.
We have no additional items to add.
So I would ask for the board to make a motion, then we can open it up for public after that.
All right, I'll make a motion to continue consideration of enacting ordinance number 20-09 age qualified overlay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any board questions? At this time, are there any questions or comments from the public?
Okay. So if there's any questions from the public, you can only make them. I do want to say to everyone, there is going to be the next agenda item, Stone Farm, so any comments specifically on the Stone Farm matter can be brought up last time. I would ask anything that's questioned on the ordinance be discussed right.
Is there a public comment or questions on the
tract of land known as the Stone Farm? Specifically, the developer at that time sought to construct a residential development consisting of 124 single-family dwellings. After numerous planning commission meetings, the board of supervisors meeting, the board denied the application in November of 2019. The applicant then filed a land use appeal with the Court of Common Pleas, and the matter has been in litigation since then. Jeff Miller and Linda Mead, who are representatives of the same Savestone Metal Farm group, intervened in that litigation. For the past 6 months, as we've had numerous meetings, we have all been discussing possible settlement of the litigation, have had numerous public meetings in front of the Board of Supervisors, the Planning Commission, and the developer themselves has held just public meetings with the residents to try and come up with a resolution to the litigation. So the parties, myself, Mr. Gunlack, Mr. Severtson, and his counsel, have drafted a stipulation of settlement that incorporates all terms that have been discussed over the past months and agreed upon in principle for a possible settlement to the litigation that is going to be in front of the board tonight. The stipulation of settlement is in final form with exhibits attached, and it has already been signed by the developer, KTMT Stone, as well as Linda Mead, Jeff Miller, representatives of the same Stone Farms group. There are some additional signatures that will probably be needed at the board, and also Francine Stone and Joyce Stone as the executives of the estate of Ezra Stone and the estate of Joseph Stone are also required and have been discussed and expected to be received soon. I wanted to go over with the board the terms of the stipulation of settlement, and let everyone know what all of the main terms of it are. As everyone knows, there is a conservation easement that will be placed on the property. If everyone's over at the slide over there, that shows the conservation easement plan. Any settlement is contingent upon the owners of the farm entering into and recording a conservation easement with Bucks County for approximately 67 acres of conserved land that abuts Bowling Mill Road. The agreement of sale for the conservation easement was executed by all parties and approved by the Bucks County Commissioners at their April 6th meeting. The conserved land will be kept as open space except for some permitted agricultural uses. The conserved land will be subdivided into 2 separate parcels of approximately 33.5 acres each, containing a building envelope within the conserved land, which are approximately 2 acres each, with the right to construct no more than 1 single-family home and related accessory buildings in each of the building envelopes. That type of building envelope is typical for conservation easements. As part of the stipulation, there will be required a subdivision of the property. The board will need to approve the subdivision of the conserved land into 2 separate parcels, and the 1 conserved parcel would then be combined with the existing farmstead, which is approximately 9.5 acres. That existing farmstead has 2 single-family homes, some barns, and some other accessory structures already in it. The subdivision plan would also then create a 3rd lot of approximately 89 acres on the eastern portion of the property closer to Route 413. This 89-acre parcel would be the developed lot. The township engineer has already reviewed the subdivision plan and has found it acceptable. The remaining, as I discussed, the remaining 89 acres of land will be then developed into 159 age-qualified single-family detached and semi-detached dwellings. The plan that is up there right now is the proposed development plan. You can see on the right side of the screen, can I reach over there? Nope. The right side of the screen is the conservation easement area. The left side of the screen has 24.5 acres of common open area on Route 13 that will have trails throughout. The middle portion of the property, okay. Yeah, the middle portion of the property here will be the 159 age-qualified homes, which consists of twin homes. There will be 17 single-family homes, which are 10 of them are up here, and an additional some down here. The reason that the single-family homes were provided here and here was to give additional space. The twin homes go deeper. The single-family homes would give more buffer space to the Summit Trace area, as well as the area along Tollgate Road. There is also approximately 15 acres of common open areas throughout the rest of the community. All of the open space area in the community, here, and some of the trails through here, will be maintained by a community association that the developer will set up if they build the community. In addition to the open space through here, you can see the green space up here in Summit Trace. The community association would then also be in charge of maintaining all of the open space throughout the Summit Trace development. As I said before, the pedestrian trails will run through the development, through all the common open areas, and a trail easement will be granted to the township to permit public use of the pedestrian trails. The form of the trail easement has already been reviewed and approved by all the parties and will be attached to the stipulation as an exhibit. The roads throughout the development will be privately owned and maintained by the community association. There is also a landscape buffer that will be installed between the proposed homes and the existing homes on Summit Trace. So right here, there's going to be a big landscape buffer right there, and there will also be a berm of 4 to 6 feet right here. There will be no berm on Route 413. It has also been proposed between the parties that 2 marker signs will be installed by the developer, one at the Tollgate Road crossing right here where it would cross over into Cork Creek Park, which will have a pedestrian flashing light, and another marker somewhere on the trails up on the front closer to 413. The marker signs will provide a history of the property, and the language will be agreed upon by the parties at that time. The design of the homes and the clubhouse will be generally as shown on the plans and specs that will be attached to as exhibits. Nick, if you can go there. This is what the design of the clubhouse is proposed to look like, and the homes are proposed to look similar to this. All right. As part of the occupancy requirements for the age-qualified development, the declaration for the community shall limit the occupancy to those persons at least 18 years of age, provided persons under 18 can occupy a dwelling for no more than 90 days per calendar year, unless they are handicap dependent protected under the Fair Housing Act. The roadway improvements that would be with this development, there is going to be a full access drive at the northern access point to the development along 413, which is essentially across from the access to the George School right now. There will be another a southern access drive closer to St. Mary's. That will be a right in, right out only. So right here is where the right in, right out would be. Right here is where the full access drive would be. There will be a pedestrian crossing over to Cork Creek Park with a flasher that will connect with the trails. As part of the stipulation also, the developer has agreed to pay the legal fees of the township and the resident interveners for all the costs incurred during the litigation. For moving forward, the developer and resident interveners have already signed the stipulation, and again, the owners are expected to sign it soon and provide it to us. If the board is inclined to approve this stipulation of settlement, the stipulation would then be filed with the court and would need to be approved by the judge overseeing the case. The subdivision plan creating the 3 separate lots and the conservation easement would then be recorded, and the developer would then proceed with its land development application and process with the township. So even if this is approved tonight, the developer would still need to provide fully engineered plans for the development to the township, for the township's consultants to review. It would then go back in front of the Planning Commission to get their review and comments. And if it was acceptable then, it would come back in front of the Board of Supervisors for approval. These final land development plans are reviewed and approved. The plans would then be recorded. At that point in time, the litigation would then be discontinued and ended. As noted previously, the ordinance for the age-qualified overlay district would still need to be voted upon and approved prior to the land development application move forward and the conservation easement plan being recorded. So that's why that would be needed to be voted on at the May meeting. If there's any questions on any of this, either myself or Mr. Gunlack could certainly answer any of the questions of the board.
I don't have any questions, but I'd just like to comment that we've come a really long way from where we started for where we've got to and where we've come. This proposal is a substantial, in my mind, improvement over what we were looking at originally for this property. And the fact that preserves so much of the property, preserves the character, the farm character of the property for our community. For me, a big reason why I'm pleased to support this and plan to vote in favor of it. And for me also, what's really important is that this proposal has the support, again, not a question just to comment about how far we've come, and too significant is striking the difference between where we started and where we are now. And again, I'm really, really, really proud of it. And also, it is worth noting that all of the taxpayer funds that were expended to fight this battle are all going to be reimbursed, and all of the resources that Save Stone's Farm expended to fight this battle will be reimbursed. So not only were all efforts successful, but it will end up with no financial impact to the taxpayer or to the members of Save Stone's Farm who fought this battle. So this just all around is just a tremendous outcome for not only everybody that's involved as a stakeholder, for the community as a whole.
I would just also like to reiterate what Supervisor Keys had said as well. I was in the audience last year and throughout the rest of the planning committee and the zone board meetings, and I was speaking. So on top of thanking the developer and thanking Linda and Jeff and the group, I'd also like to thank all of the residents that came out and continued to voice that needed something better for our community. This is a struggle, right? Because I think we ultimately wanted to preserve 100%, but I think looking up here, this is when we were able to preserve a majority of the phone and keep that open space. So I just wanted to, thank all of the parties, developer, and also the other members that originally, voted against this and made the ability to compromise, available to us.
So I'm just going to reiterate, again, I think you both stated it so beautifully. I really wanted to especially thank Jeff and all the community members that came out. He's really made the difference. I give you all the goes. This is an amazing accomplishment, I feel. And I know that everyone's not going to be satisfied. We understand that people aren't going to be 100% satisfied because, we're members of the community also, and we wanted to be open space preserved. And that's, everybody's goal. But in the end, it's an achievement. And I think that so much space is going to be preserved. And we thank the developer for really working with everybody. But really, I hope that everybody's satisfied, and I know that we give you much credit for all the work you've done.
In an effort to not be redundant, I also want to thank the county for working so hard on this and preserve that much land. You can definitely see stark difference from the plan that was proposed in 2019 versus where we're at today, and it's a huge accomplishment for everybody. And applaud the community for rallying and standing up. I was in the audience in 2019. Everybody voted no, and everybody cheered. From folks, this probably isn't exactly what we want, but can definitely see that comparison. And I think it goes to show when you hear about something, you get involved, you really can make a difference. Thank you.
Are there any comments, questions from the board members? Then I will motion to approve the township entering into the proposed stipulation settlement with the appellant and all interveners for the land use appeal of KT LP Buckskin Quarter Common Pleas number 2019-08733 and authorize township solicitor, consultants, and staff to take necessary acts to carry out the terms of such stipulation settlement. Mr. Esposito, contingent upon.
Contingent on the receipt of the signatures of Francine and Joy Stone.
So motion amended, consistent with what Mr. Esposito just said, contingent upon the signatures of the signatories. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. Are there any questions? And not, are there any questions or comments from the public? Yes, ma'am. Come up to the microphone and please state your name, address.
Sharon Furlong. I live in Feasterville, Lower Southampton, but I come as spokesperson for the Bucks Environmental Action. I wanted to thank everybody who has been working in both the community and in the government to try to get the original plan jettisoned. And as you have commented, it is very true that this plan is different. However, as an environmental watchdog, I do have some questions about the conservation easement, and I'd like that placed into the record. I have several. I hope that's okay. So there are many different kinds of easements. There's riparian easements, wetland easements, there's a straight conservation easement, and there's an agricultural conservation easement. This easement throughout all of the 15 pages is referred to as a conservation easement as opposed to an agricultural easement. However, all of the activities that are going to be allowed match the requirements for an agricultural easement, not a conservation easement. So a conservation easement, straight conservation easement, is for the preservation of plants, trees, soil, wildlife, and the general area. We're in this easement. So again, why not agricultural easement? It's the same for crops. The foods that were actually mentioned are all crops. They're domestic crops, and they're to be retailed, but there's no, and that's okay, but again, that's not allowed on regular conservation easement, only agricultural. So doesn't this need to be renamed? It also allows the cutting of timber, which is not allowed on conservation easements. The only timber that is to be logged on conservation easements, because usually the Forest Service on the federal level or the state comes in and says, we need to thin this out in order to preserve the health of the forest. That is not what's involved here, because commercial timbering would be allowed. I don't walk the grounds. I don't know if there's commercial timber, but it would be allowed. Again, that's agricultural easement, not conservation easement, and I have to wonder, why is this being called a conservation easement when it reads like an agricultural conservation easement? So this allows things to happen that should not be allowed to happen, and maybe that needs to be looked at a little bit more carefully as we go into the second, third, fourth generation of people who live in this community and people who live possibly on the grounds of those 67 holdings, 67 acres of 2 in-holdings, because that they'll be at that point. This agreement also allows for retail sales of the crops, cut timber, raised and processed domestic animals like sheep, goats, chicken, and cows. By the way, that sometimes becomes a problem when people move in, and in this case, it's going to be 124 homes for 55 plus, so we have elderly people moving in, and that might be a bit of a problem in terms of smells and stuff like that. That has happened in many communities in the nation before. So again, I just wanted to get on the record that that's a piece of what this is all about, and that there is the allowance on those 67 aggregate acres for there to be outbuildings to be created within those 2 acres each. All right, again, in an in-holding. So is that going to be built like a farm stand that is more of a real store, a retail store? Is that what's going to happen? And if so, will the structures remain within the boundaries of these in-holdings, which is the 2 acres each, and the easement restrictions? Who will be monitoring, who will be policing what an agricultural easement creates and meets, which is that 50% of what's sold in a farm stand or a retail store within an easement, within that whole territory, 50% has to be raised and processed on that land in order to be sold at part of the, and who's going to be doing the policing and the monitoring of that? So my second question is everything going to meet the standards that has been set up within 15 pages? Thank you. And who's going to police it?
Okay, where this is right here, this is where I live. Okay, right there. Okay, this little parcel right here of open space, I would like to put it on the record if I could to ask the developers, because I'm in the process right now of trying to take adverse possession, because when I bought my house, it was sold under false pretenses. I was told I owned that until about almost a year later I found out I didn't own that. And I've been taking care of it for the past 13 years, mowing it. Whenever the trees, when the winds come and the storms come and the big branches come down, I'm the one who paid thousands of dollars to have TNT Tree Service come out, chip it all, take care of it. And I have pictures of when I first moved in there, how people in Summit Trees were literally dumping whatever their yard waste was onto that property with the prior owner, and it was way over my head. It took me 2 years to clean it all up. So I want to ask, I want to request that, because I know nobody can actually own it. I mean, I pay my lawyer a lot, right? And I'm just a disabled vet on a fixed income. And I found out that nobody can actually own it. They can manage it because it's declared open space. Yeah, that little parcel there on that, yeah, I might have to show them again.
Do you have a pointer, Jim?
197 Iron Rock Court.
I think she's talking about this area.
Right here, right there.
Right in the corner.
Yeah, it's right in here. So 197 is right here. Yeah,
Cemetery.
right, right. Yeah. Right. So when you get your homeowners association, if they can stay on that side of the fence for my little parcel, and we let us just use it as the backyard and just be at peace, I'm requesting that. You know, if there's any way we can do that. Another thing I wanted to bring up, I mean, it's nice to say not everybody's going to be happy. No, well, I mean, you see where I live, it's going to be boom right there. I watch George School when they have a lot of events, and I'm surprised they haven't came out here and sell peep. But when they unload, I mean, I watch buses go out of there, and it takes a long time for that traffic to go down. And they have big events throughout the year. So the traffic is going to be horrendous, and it's going to be. My house, when I moved into it, prior to me moving into it, there were 8 people living in that house. And now with a lot of immigration and people having not a lot of money, there's going to be a lot of people living in those houses, more than what is speculated. And people 55 and older don't just sit at home. I'm 72. And prior to my stroke, I was driving all the time. And a lot of the older people sitting in here will tell you the same thing. I don't sit at home. I make 5 to 7 trips a day, you know? So it's not true that old people, it's going to be a reduction in traffic. It's going to be gridlock, and and we know it. And one thing that on that little space that I was talking about, for years, people when they drive into Oak Ridge, when they come on Summit Trace Drive, they take their liquor bottles and they throw it out the window, because I watch them do it, and it lands right where I go around and pick it all up and clean it all up, and I've been doing it for 13 years. And I put it in recycle. My recycle people think I'm the biggest boozer in Middletown. But they know me better than that. They do. I got a good report, those people. And I do have certain things set up. I'm registered with the World Wildlife Fund, and also I have my whole backyard as a registered and certified wildlife habitat. I have it set up where birds can hide from the raptors, deer can come in and bed down at night, which they do. Because a lot of times when people were hunting on Stone Meadow Farm, deer, I'd open my door and there'd be like 6 bucks standing in my backyard. And they'd say, oh, we're here, we just don't want to get shot, you know? But I can understand that. They know where to go. And so I have it set up where there's things for composting. I'm a Native American, I'm a Cherokee, and we believe what comes from the earth goes back to the earth. So I managed it that way, even though it looks a little cluttered, it's really well controlled. So, so that is my big request, that you just all allow me to still manage it and take care of it. I'd be, more than grateful for that. And the other question I had is, who is gonna, like somebody brought up, who's gonna check on, is there 8 people living in a house, or is there only 55 and over? Is the homeowners association going to be doing that? That's going to be a full-time job, managing adults, especially people who are 55. You all know that. and we're the worst population to manage. So it's something you gotta look at, something that needs to be considered. Kids move back home, and they stay there, and they bring their kids. That's gonna happen. Crime, the thing nobody wants to talk about, crime like it never happens. The people I know, I go to the VA in Philadelphia. I'm a veteran. I served 21 years, Vietnam, Grenada, Panama, Desert Storm, Somalia, Bosnia. And, you know, whenever I go to the VA, they say, Miss Sly, give that 5 years, it's going to be just like Philadelphia, you know? So it's just all the things that the community needs to look at. And when you say not everybody's going to be satisfied, no, we got to live with it. So it's going to be hard. It really is. My neighbors are talking about moving. I say, no, don't jump ship yet. You know, we don't know how this is going to go. So, but now that they're going to get the green light, we don't know. But when you're dealing with a community, there is a lot of concern. And we don't hate you guys. We really don't hate you. A friend of mine asked to talk to a lady, and she said, that lady was so mean with me. She said, if you get on that property, we'll sue you to the fullest extent of the law. I said, don't worry. They asked about going over there with a metal detector because he lost his ring. I don't know when he went over there in the first place, but you know, I don't even go over there. That's for the farmers, you know. So I don't go over there. So, but that's my concerns. Another thing, when like Tullytown, when they took the Levittown Shopping Center and they dug all that up, rats went everywhere. They went into Kenwood, Stony Brook, and over at St. Mike's and whatever. Well, now I have mice in my house now. I mean, I catch between 10 and 12 a week. You know, I have traps, yeah, because it's farmland. And when they come in the spring and they disrupt the land, boom, I get them. So I know when they start digging all that stuff up, boom, my neighbors are going to get a big surprise. But I've been dealing with it, and I got these electric traps, and I have two, and I leave them out there, and the feral cats come and haul them off and eat them. You know, because they're electrocuted, they're poisoned. So, and that's why I don't disrupt the feral cats. I leave them alone. They police they get rid of these mice. They keep that population down. So if you see a lot of cats, don't shoot them. Please don't shoot them. All right, so but yeah, that's my concern. So
Thank you.
Put that on record.
Thank you very much. Are there any other? Yes, sir. Please state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Eric Jacobs, 213 Cambridge Drive. I understand that the board is not considering a final land development plan, but I also would like to bring up one issue with the sketch plan that I think if it waits until it comes before the board for final approval, it would be too late to make a change, and I think could make an improvement to the community. Specifically, I think the plan could improve if one of the roads connecting to 413 on the west side, on the plan, would be replaced with a road connected to Tollgate Road on the south side. Now, I know this was considered and rejected in the original developer's plan for single-family homes. There were technical and reasons and PennDOT reasons for that, and I wasn't heavily involved then. But this is a very different plan now, and I think it deserves to be reconsidered and having this plan make it the best it can be for the future. So we know the issues of traffic 413. That development will add to them. There's nothing can be to completely prevent that if you're going to have a community like that. Currently, between the same area and the lighted bypass was exactly 1 mile or 5 roads intersect with Route 13, not counting one of the George Pool. And that plan shows the addition of 2 more roadways. To replace one of the roads, the road at the bottom on Tollgate Road, it would lessen the impact of having any entry points on 413. I live in Sturbridge, just south here. It would be difficult pulling on 413, and I know the board has heard for any residents. Of course, these meetings about concerns of traffic on 413. Having a road on Tollgate, one of the roads on Tollgate would do 2 things, in opinion, to improve the current plan. Some traffic exiting from the new development turn left to Tollgate and head east to hit Woodbourne Road, go north or south, rather than going on to 413. It's probably a small percentage of the total traffic, but it would be some less traffic onto 413. For those who are headed toward 13 would use that road off Tollgate, they were using an existing intersection with Tollgate Road and 413, instead of creating another road where the space of cars coming into all 7 roads along the mile will make it very difficult at times for people getting in and out. Finally, I understand that PennDOT has regulation, you can't have a through and do development, and so you can't, which a road down there could cut through to 13 if it, I believe can be solved. Or other roads in the township active the additional track on 13 coming from development. Thank you.
Thank you much. Sir, name and ad, please.
Hi, I wasn't planning on speaking here, but I noticed something on the plan that I think may be an oversight. Preserving the land and having open spaces and trails is truly commendable, and I really applaud you on that. But it is only good if the entire Middletown community can utilize that open land, those trails. I presume that they're not meant for only the property owners. So if I'm also from Laurel Oaks. If I drive Meadowbrook to the farm and want to use the trails, where do I park? The park company driveway, that would make me happy. Or do I park the street? That would make me happy also. So I don't see any street parking for the Middletown residents to be able to use that open land that's being preserved. And in interest of brevity, thank you.
I'll address that real quick. It actually has a connecting trail to Cork Park, where everyone can see park at Cork Creek Park, and then the trail connect over into the Stone Farm.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Yes, ma'am. State your name and address.
Good evening, Florence Fort, 301 North Bellevue Avenue, Langford. I have 2 questions. Dealing with the conservation easement, there's 2 building envelopes that, from what I've studied in the plan, were not fully surveyed. In other words, the survey doesn't, that previous survey, those driveways could be extensive. And that's one of my questions. The second and last is, who's going to be holder of the easement? Is it county alone, or is it the county and the township? Because there would be legal responsibility to oversee it for future. There are rules regarding that as far as allowable permit uses. Timber harvesting is not a conservation easement, those types of activities. So just wanted to bring these questions up for your review. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Pizzito, can you comment on some of those?
So as far as the conservation easement, the township is not a holder. It is just the county themselves. And when the owners do go to build the properties on there, they still have to come into the township to obtain any building permits, and we will be able to review building code and storm management code at that time.
Thank you. Any other public comment or questions, ma'am?
At least a half a mile before you get to the public trails. So that was my question. So what are we referring to when you say Cork Creek? Thank you.
Yes, sir. Just if you're looking for answer to your question, this is not designed to be a destination where we're going to have a parking lot, people to come and park and walk the trail. The idea is to have continuous connectivity from these trails through the development into Cork Creek Park. The trails are...
If I may, Mr. Kazak, so compare a direct. So we're involved with some trail work right here. The idea you drive to a trail is commendable. If you drive into this specific trail, Cork Creek, the option, for example, right up the street across from St. Mary's, there's a very nice trail around proximity to this area. Sure. You walk it all the time there. And then across, when we want, we cross 13, we can also go into Cork Park.
I think the point, there are a vast number of opportunities currently in the town to walk. If you want to go for a walk, if you want to recreate, there are a number of places you can do that already. Certainly. You use this. You can use it. You don't have to park someplace else. You can park in Cork Creek Park. No, but I said. Okay. We're not putting a parking lot at this particular park, so I'm sorry I didn't inconvenience, but that is the option on this plan. Is there any other public comment questions? Yes, Mr. Miller.
Good evening. I'm Jeff Miller with Save Meadows Farm. First off, I'd like to certainly the traffic issues. Present where do we park? I already slide. What am I doing with my properties? I think in the end, there's a stipulation of settlement I signed off on Friday. What that outlines, a bunch of things that throughout the last 5 years, it's all the feedback, all the citizens' concerns, the developers' concerns, their demands, their needs, the Stone family primarily. I mean, let's face it, it's the property until it went on contract. But, we never really the one always holding the cards, us here. So, I am proud of the fact that collectively we've been able to work through a process that was tumultuous at times, very difficult. Everybody pitched in, whether it's you guys up there board, Jim Esposito, developer, everybody stepped up to bait. Everybody listened, compromised. And certainly the biggest compromising people here is the citizens of Middletown Township, us, the taxpayers, because we are relinquishing something that is very deep to us, is land, but it's also deep to the Stone family, who is the owner of 168 acres of property. But now it's been finalized to a large extent. Nothing's done, except we're at the finish line, we're at the goal line, and we have a stipulation settlement, like me and the signed off on it. We have the conservation easement, which is really an agricultural easement, going back to Sharon along. And that presents itself issues too. But fortunately, we were not a party to any of that. Middletown Township wasn't, Dave Middleton was drawn by the county, the Stone family, and I believe, I don't know who had a whole to do with it. So it's very complicated. So 5 parties to come together and sign on the deadline is a tremendous feat. For that, I thank everybody in this room, and especially everybody out here. And your concerns, sir, you're right about, you're a taxpayer. But I think, I went there with the developer need. We want trails to go through. That property is not owned by us, taxpayers. It's actually an HOA, but they're giving us the right to be able to just through that property if we so choose. It's the difference, not like it's parkland. And these things that the citizen, I'm learning along the way, I don't know the answers to these things. But nonetheless, there again, I don't want to be winded, I already am. Thank you. Good night.
Any other public comment? Yes.
My name is Francis Rouse. I was just wondering if you could tell me the builder who's due the construction.
For the home, it's Fox Lane Homes. Is there any other public comment? Yes.
It has to do with the development where I live.
Just 1 second. This is public comment on a specific agenda item. So if it's unrelated to the development, then this would not be the appropriate time for the comment. But if it has to do with the Stone Barn development or the settlement of...
Oh, no, but it is very important.
Okay. Well, we can certainly talk afterward. You want to talk to any of us privately?
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
All right, do that. All
Is there any other comment on this? If not, there is a motion and the second on the table. All those in favor of approving the stipulation of settlement, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have our Q1 2022 financial report, and for that we have our finance director, Ben Noe.
Good evening. I hope all are doing well, and I try my best to not take very long since the meeting's going a little bit already. As mentioned, my name is Bandari. I'm the finance director here at the township. I will be giving you a brief overview of our Q1 2022 revenue expenses compared to budget compared to Q1 2021 actuals, a brief overview of our investment fund, and last but not least, up on our pension plan. Okay, so as of now, we are actually on our target to budget overall and are actually doing slightly better than our Q1 2021 actuals this year versus last year. We are currently at 17% of our revenue target and about 16% of our expense target, which means our incoming revenue is actually over our expenses, which is great to see. Our Q1 2022 actuals versus Q1 2021 actuals for revenue are actually coming in at about $100,000 better than last year and over $140,000 on the expense side better. So overall, we are off to a great start compared to our 2022 budget and our actuals for 2021. I'll be going into more detail on our revenue and on our expenses for Q1 versus 2022 and 2021 in the upcoming slides, specifically related to the general fund and the capital fund. So our general fund is our primary operating fund for day-to-day expenses and revenues. So it's usually our focus during the planning and budgeting process. Overall, we are at 18% on the revenue side and 20% on the expense side. Normally, we would see that as an issue since our revenue currently is under our expenses, but in reality, for Q1, this is actually great. and pretty normal overall. Our revenues come in a certain flow throughout the year, while as our expenses are more fixed, especially salary and wages and other normal operating costs. So if you actually compare Q1 2021, that actually puts it into perspective. We're actually $800,000 higher in revenue compared to last year, Q1 2021, and are doing $158,000 less on expenses compared to last year. So we're doing a lot better. As far as revenue is concerned, our earned income tax is actually doing quite a bit better. We're still seeing a trailing effect of the work from home situation post-COVID, where many commuters were working from home, which was giving us more revenue internally in Middletown Township versus going to the city. Another piece of the revenue that we're getting in is the real estate transfer taxes. There's quite a bit more transfers coming in still with the real estate market booming. And last but not least, our township services, our permits, inspection, and other services are doing far better than the average. We're seeing a lot more constructions coming in, which has increased our revenue. As far as expenditures, as I mentioned earlier, salary and wages are fixed and have increased overall, but our department heads make it a point to find the best and most efficient and effective solutions from an operating cost perspective. So in turn, that's helped in increasing our overall operating costs year over year. You can go on the capital. Thank you. Our capital fund is a fund that we utilize for capital activities, including projects and other activities. And we usually receive grant funding for reimbursement. So far, we have received about 5% of our revenue and about 10% in expenses compared to budget. Our revenue this year consists mostly of a transfer from the general fund, as well as some RDA grant money that we're planning on receiving. This fund doesn't normally have any fixed revenue sources, so it relies heavily on grants, fund transfers, and sometimes bonds. So this year, we're actually utilizing a bond that we had completed in 2020, where we still have quite a bit of money left over, and some funding that we're receiving from the RDA grant. We have not done our transfer as of yet into this fund from the general fund. That's something we look to at the end of the year after we've seen how much spending has incurred and whether or not we need to actually make that transfer. As you can see on the expense side, we've started quite a few projects, but we still have quite a few more to go. I'll be updating you throughout the year with more of the projects that are coming in as we go. But for now, these are the projects we have in place so far. Thanks. As far as our investment fund, this fund is actually a fund that we have for that we've invested into from our water and sewer plant sale. Unfortunately, we're seeing a bit of a loss in the balance as of now, and it's mostly due to the market conditions, as many of us have seen. Interest rates are going up, but what that has done is shown a sharp rise in yields, which has negatively impacted the market value of all of our portfolio. We're hoping that as interest rates stabilize, the market value will get better and we'll see a more stable growth in our investments overall. PFM is continuously monitoring this and looking for the best solutions for us. On a positive note, our Univest money market actually has increased from a 0.25% interest rate to 0.50 interest rate, which is at least somewhat of a better trend. So we are seeing a little bit more money coming through on that end. Okay, last but not least is our pension update. So we have employee pension plans here at the township. Again, same trend as in our investment side. Unfortunately, we're seeing a bit of a loss just because of market value as interest rates rise. Right now, we're seeing a negative 4.4% decrease. I do want to point out on the uniform side that we did have some extra cash in our account. So we moved $1 million over to our investment funds This represents just the investment side of our pension plan. It doesn't include the cash side, so it's not our full account balance. And as I mentioned, we had access cash, so we moved that over to the investment fund. So our ending balance is a little bit higher than that negative 4% that you're seeing on here. So it doesn't calculate correctly, but that's actually what it is. I just wanted to point that out. So we're hoping that as interest rates rise, as I mentioned before, and the things stabilize, that this trend will get better and we'll see a little bit more of gains in the near future. This is temporary, as we know. I mean, we're hoping that it gets better with time. Well, that wraps up our Q1 2022 financials and pension update. Before I conclude, are there any questions from anyone?
Well, I think probably the performance of the pension fund and the investments is unaffected, but it certainly is good to get good financials from a revenue expenditure standpoint. Any boards have any questions from Indari?
Do we, given those results, do we see any negative impact to our overall budget for full year 2022?
I think that now they're still looking at trends, and we're hoping that with interest rates rising, the yield will change. So at this point, there's no full date on where that's going. As far as running expenses, I think over 2022 is looking good in that. I think missed that end, but from the invest side, it's hard to say at the moment. Interest are adjusting to rise, so it'll be a little bit of time to kind of see where things go.
Any other questions? Thank you, Bendari.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Next on the agenda, we have consideration of purchasing meeting room desk furniture from Paul Downs Cabinet Makers. Felix.
Good evening. A project that has been in the works for several years and will include in the 2020 budget is an update of public meeting room. As you can see, looking around you, it has been many years since there's been an update to the public meeting room. The goal at budget time was that we would modernize the dais furniture as well as update the technology. Primary goal to be able to operate in this new hybrid and Zoom meeting world. So there are a number of different contracts that I'm going to be bringing to you over the next month or so. This gives you shows you rendering of what we're hoping the room will look like. Obviously, it's still going to be 2 stories here. We're not chopping off to create a ceiling as depicted there. But we're going to do a combination of in-house labor as well as several contracts. The first contract I'm bringing to you tonight is for the furnishings for on the dais. So the proposal is to expand this stage out this way and widen it. To install custom-made DS for the Board of Supervisors and 2 desks that will be on the stage with the board. There'll be a new lectern that matches this, and everything will provide for a seamless technology for meetings. So the Board of Supervisors will have at their spots ability of what is on the screen will be at your spots. We're hoping to do new carpeting as well as new chairs. And one of the things that the Public Works Department is going to be doing for us is sort of an accent column behind the dais with the township logo on it. So it's a big project. We budgeted $100,000 for this project. I'm confident we're going to be able to keep the project under budget, within budget. So tonight, what I'm bringing to you is a purchase from a actually little Montgomery County vendor. It's Paul Downs Cabinet Makers. They provide meeting room furnishings for all levels of government, and the client list is extensive, going all the way from different branches of the military, universities, other cities. And what we're looking at is obviously trying to stay with the modern feel of this meeting room, but incorporating some wood and wood veneers with laminate for a curved desk, which would be where it would be for either 5 or 7 people. We have 7 people in the Planning Commission, so it would accommodate the use that we have right now, and the 2 desks as well as the lectern. So the overall contract is for $51,825. So obviously that's a big price tag, and just wanted to make sure that the board is understanding. We did research to get a sense of what our other options were. There are two other vendors that were actually more money than Paul Downs. You're getting truly a custom piece of furniture, and this is something that will last, easily for the next 50 years in this public meeting room. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I guess just the last thing I will say is we'll have the technology contract. We'll have a carpet contract. We hope to actually, after the board's meeting in June, we would close the meeting room down. That is when we would come in to everything out. Public Works would extend this stage and do the work that they're doing to coordinate. We'll hopefully hold July meeting upstairs and would then come back down here, crossing our fingers with the supply chain, that we would come back down for our August meeting, September at the latest. So I'm happy to answer questions if anyone has.
Well, I know that this is something that's been in the work for several years. That board has been considering, and it's in my opinion, it's I think overdue. It's been a long time since the room has been updated from an ethics standpoint, and I think important to bring our meeting in line with what neighboring municipalities have their public meeting spaces, members more permanent structure, and I think that's great. And I think more importantly, bring us into modern age from a technology standpoint is not an optional. I think it's something we have to not just prepare for something as catastrophic as what we'll deal with in 2020, but for what we are seeing is trend moving forward. That not accept a motion.
I have to approve a contract with Paul Downs, and it makes a report for in the amount of $51,820.
Thank you, Maine. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Gold, this motion is second. Are there any board questions? Are there any questions from the public? Seeing all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass 5-0. Thank you, Teal Equals. Next on the agenda, we have consideration of authorizing the purchase of Palo Alto Firewall PA450 redundant firewalls. Mr. Reed.
Yes, good evening. Currently, our Cisco firewall is on the end of life, so I cannot renew the warranty on it, and firewalls are major fans to protect our network. So, after doing research and everything, Palo Alto 450 will fit our needs. Will give me the ability to actually run reports, have it live, see what's going on per particular user doing. It would actually benefit us and help me determine even more where weak spots are. Because criminal cybersecurity now, ransomware, local governments is literally a target. Once recently happened, which I think I mentioned in the town, but close by. At some point is 20,280 from prison work, which is our vendor, and that includes. But it's really slow, and so I have to shut off the server. So it's kind of looking at a way where I can keep everything up and running and get the server all up to date. But I think this is more than that, so that's why I'm going in direction.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, cybersecurity is a significant concern, and firewalls certainly are vital to stop those types of events.
Correct.
So I think this is important. I'll move to authorize purchase of Palo Alto Firewall PA450 through Works Technology in an amount not to exceed $21,280. There's a second.
Okay.
Next, Ms. Pace, and a second. Are any board questions at this time? Any questions from the public? See none, those over say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Mr. McGee, this is 5-0. On the agenda, discussion of the US Route 1 project, and this will be the second time the board is opening discussion on this topic. So I'll ask Teal Equals is going to just provide some information to remind Buddy what it is we are talking about.
Sure, thank you. So just as a follow-up, I'm going to just very briefly go through the slideshow. Last month, we discussed the U.S. Route 1 project. It's section RC3, which is the fourth section in the overall Route 1 project. The purpose of the project is to modernize the roadway for safety and efficiency in travel, matching current design criteria. You saw the project limits were just up there. PennDOT is strongly encouraging public feedback. There is a project website. We have this linked on our website. It's currently preliminary design phase with construction anticipated in 2026. PennDOT has shared with us that they are attempting to contact and interact with residents as much as possible. They have interacted with 90 different individuals They are asking for feedback from individual municipalities. We talked at our last meeting about some of our neighbors having provided impact and provided feedback and requests for mitigation efforts. PennDOT has told us that they will be holding a public plans display meeting. They did say May, although now we're getting pretty close to May, but definitely this spring. Many of you will recall they have had multiple public plans display here in the Township building. This just shows you the overview of the project. When completed, there will be only 2 interchanges on this section of Route 1, one near the high school and one near Maple Avenue. This shows you what it looks like right now with the concrete islands and the access roads. This next slide shows you the proposal to remove concrete islands, to have 2 12-foot travel lanes in each direction with a 6-foot shoulder and a center concrete barrier, 14-foot paved shoulders on the outer lanes. This up in the air right now is whether or not there will be a sound wall. Something that is up for discussion and feedback that they are requesting is related to the access roads becoming pedestrian and bicycle trails. Where access roads, there will be portions where the access roads do remain, and there will be an 8-foot paved shoulder for pedestrian and bicycles. So if the decision is made that the access roads are converted to pedestrian and bicycle paths, there will be linkages for those pedestrian and bicycles on the portions where the access road will remain open. Now, this shows you the northbound ramp at Highland with a roundabout. You'll recall that this is the section that is still in flux. And, you know, we had to put a couple of X's through an old design. It originally included a ramp and a roundabout. They've been removed because of the school, you know, issues with the school. Sidebar from our last meeting, I am invited to a meeting with PennDOT and the school district to talk about the project's impact on the school district coming up in a couple of weeks. The next slide shows you some of the frontage roads where there will be sections that are remaining open for access and circulation. Very hard to see on this slide, but the cross-hatched areas will remain. Again, that's just continuing to move down to the last slide, which shows you the partial Cloverleaf design, which has 2 signalized intersections with through lanes. The light blue on here depicts a 12-foot wide path for pedestrians and bicycles. It will link existing sidewalk just off this plan. At the bottom are the library and other train station items to connect to. The Bellevue Highland roundabout in place of the blinking light. And so that's just sort of the high level. And the final slide for the board is next steps and discussion points. So I'll turn it back over to you, Chairperson Kizak.
Thank you. So it seems to me a couple of things that PennDOT is looking for from us. First and foremost is they're looking for a statement of support generally for the project. And then they're looking for input from us, specific mitigation requests. And so we have to consider what, if any, requests we want to make. And one of the big topics, which is up there, the second bullet point, discusses the conversion of these access roads to pedestrian bicycle paths, which is something that's under discussion. So I wanted to open it up so that we can certainly have, if members of the public want to ask questions or provide feedback. I think the one thing the board is looking for is, and is always looking for, frankly, is more public input and more public feedback. And so we don't necessarily have to resolve everything tonight. We are hopeful that this meeting, that this plan display that we're told will happen in this room will take place soon. May was when we were initially told. And so that would be a great opportunity for the public to come and review plans and provide feedback. But I think at least for tonight's purposes, it would be good to see if there is consensus on board generally support the project and see what the feeling of the board is on conversion of access road to pedestrian bicycle paths. I want to. We have Mr. Forrest, our traffic engineer, who kindly came tonight, and I'd like to, I always on the spot, but I would like to just, if you talk about the traffic studies that have been done, traffic concerns, the big ones I think a lot of have heard a lot from residents, also members of neighboring municipalities concern the impact specifically on Maple Avenue and Route 13 as the result of the elimination of these access roads.
Taken to enhance transportation on not only on your own network, but on PennDOT roadway network. So they look at so the access roads are going to be used, as Ms. Teal said, for some access points as well as for pedestrian pathways. Those and the noise walls are still under consideration as far as design tweaks, which we will have an impact on with regard to that. One of our priorities is pedestrian mobility. PennDOT is all on board with providing a walking trail across 413 and pedestrian impacts, track signals, and lastly, the frontage roads. The extent of which and how we work and how we connect is still a design issue that has to be gone through PennDOT. So Township, PennDOT's engineers will be involved in that process. Rest assured, anything comes up you're thinking of today that you might question about can and will be answered by PennDOT and likely be resolved in a positive way.
Sorry if I just interrupt. So just if you can just re-emphasize or clarify what you just said, what is still in consideration unresolved that board has the opportunity to influence at this point?
Well, I think right now the best to have opportunity with PennDOT through this long process, and it's going to be a long process, by support of the project. So the outstanding things are what are priorities? Is it going to be pedestrian access? Is it going to be putting noise walls? I've heard at the last meeting some people want noise walls. So it's really a prioritization of what you like to see. The road is going to be the road. There's going to be access 413, a new change. That's going to be regard to what PennDOT is providing, and they're open to any suggestions that might have to prove that. So we're looking at, again, the pedestrian ability, opening that up for residents to be able to get around town better, get across Route 1 in a fashion that makes both sides of the, you could get each side of the township without having to, trouble yourself. And so that's really it, and doing it all. So I hate not to say, to get this or to get that. We really got PennDOT overhead with this, that. I say it right now. I think we've done a job so far, and I think with everything we do with PennDOT is really worked out well for us.
Thank you, Mr. Worcester. The board must have questions for Mr. Worcester, Ms. Teal Pools, or have comments generally they will offer out this project.
I know that some of the neighboring townships or municipalities are concerned about the traffic in their little areas. So have there been a traffic study done to show how taking away the access roads will impact those areas like Lang Manor and center of town and things like that? It's not Middletown, but it's obviously we're being through it. If you're in Middletown driving through those areas,
they have. I mean, historically, the access roads are traffic accident problems. So they're trying to eliminate those type of roads based upon essentially what you have is interstate highway, which is not an interstate highway, I should be clear, but it's like an interstate highway, restricted access onto for Route 1. So it's kind of a tenet of traffic engineering and highway work that you kind of remove those type of frontage roads anymore because they cause problems where high-speed traffic should not be involved with lower-speed traffic on a frontage road. Taking away those frontage roads does impact access for other communities, not as much as Middletown, other than, like you said, Mr. Purple, that they will, Middletown people will drive on those roads. But it makes it more, I guess the word is, it's more uniform with regard to how they're treating this road, so it's treated like every other interchange on Route 1. So you're going to come from the turnpike and be able to travel on the same type of road with the same type of interchange and access points rather than having something that is foreign to most people that are not from the area regarding these access roads and how to get here and how to get there. If you're not in the area, you're going to be in trouble how you get like along 413. It's a continuous route right now, and now we're connecting. So they're the types of things that make it better. But again, we have some time to influence the access road portions that are within two pedestrian, bicycle, non-motorized paths. So that wasn't a bad thing. I know they're not trying to do that, but they're on an issue with have localized access used. They just don't know how to handle just yet. But certainly we could pass that along, or preferably a letter of support with types of things that would be helpful.
Other boards have questions for traffic engineer, Mr. Worcester.
I have a question.
would like the feedback from the community? Is that presentation? We're looking for community input right now through the website. We will highly publicize the plans display when we hear from them on that. They'll hold it here. They typically hold meeting here.
Thank you. I was a couple weeks ago when we had first kind of review. Do we hear from the residents after that?
I did not, no.
Well, there's some residents here, and Lisa has hand up, so I'd like to give ma'am an opportunity to ask any questions or provide feedback on the route project.
Hello, my name is Chris. I think that side road service roads, for lack of a better term, are better served than bicycle paths and things of that nature. What's good, in my opinion, what you have here is two lanes now. We all know that the traffic going up and down travel at a high rate of speed. So what you're going to do now is open it to 3-lane traffic going at a high rate of speed. Personally, I'm not riding a bicycle along that. To me, it's like riding a bicycle up 95 or any other superhighway. I believe that the service roads are a great benefit to the residents. As far as engines, emergency vehicles getting them down there. By taking service roads, what you're doing is you've got 3 lanes of traffic at high speeds, north and south, really not accomplishing anything, but get people through our little town at a faster rate of speed. By leaving the service roads, you're also leaving more and people entering and exiting thoroughfare. No need for Cloverleaf to all of the traffic to 413 and 13 intersection. So I think that the service roads are a great asset to the neighbor and should be removed. I think there's going to be a lot of more congestion and a lot more hardship by taking them all. You know, people who want to ride their bus in one pass, we have all our little towns to throw into that. We have all paths. We were just talking about Corey Park and all those pieces. I know you need to add more of that and take away from the urgency accessibility. When the things going to high school, the traffic to the trike, you have parents that keep their children band practice, whatever, by going on those service roads. I think it's a service to get rid of, in my opinion. Does anyone want to add anything to that? I mean, I would like to, you know, add a lot out of it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your comment. Mr. Worst, a couple points that I would appreciate comments. I mean, one certainly is the idea of losing rather than gaining access for residents. I think probably that pertains more to resident municipalities other than Middletown, but still, it's an important point. I think the other point is access for emergency vehicles was something is worth a discussion.
Either far off the road or have large berm or barrier between any traffic at all, well, completely. I would imagine something similar you could get would be the new two bypass area in Parkway with how the trail is further off and protected pretty much from back. It's a little bit different. It has access to the communities. And I think that is dealing with that right now. So the best I can do with that is I'll keep you posted on the progress that they make with regard to how they feel that they should handle access to and from the highway and how the frontage roads going to play that. But I concur with the issue of emergency access and so forth. The other thing that we're trying to do is we're trying to keep general traffic and cut through and meter traffic off of local roadways, unless you want to be on those roadways. So there's no meandering around like we see in areas like South Farmers Mill Road, causes tremendous amount of congestion for and that leaks out onto Lincoln Highway and to Route 1, to Business Route 1, and it's a really tough thing, and that might go away a lot of it. The more direct routes you have with traffic, the less you have filtering to neighborhoods. So that's kind of tenant to look at as far as it goes.
Thank you. Mr. Bell, I think you said somebody on Zoom with a comment.
Yes, from the screen, Brian, we're going to move you to the room now.
Okay. Can you hear me? Great. I'm Brian Marty, 120 East Marshall Avenue in Huero. I'd like to make a few comments about the plan features and also ask a few questions. An element I'd like to highlight now, though, is that PennDOT actually has a program called PennDOT Connects, and that program essentially is a mechanism to educate the public and public officials on projects that PennDOT undertakes, and that's to get public feedback. So one of the elements of PennDOT Connects is also to look at the comprehensive plans of the town that are affected, and PennDOT Connects has been in place since 2016, which is basically projects that are funded prior to that were to be exempt. They're significantly designed that we consider, I'm talking about residents of Langhorne Borough, which I am a resident of, would benefit, and basically Middletown Township would also benefit from this program. So to the extent I'm hearing that there aren't a lot of public comments, perhaps because there hasn't been adequate education of the public and awareness of this project. So I would highly encourage Middletown to inquire further about benefits and why PennDOT Connects is not being implemented this project. Another question I would ask too about the bicycle path along access roads is, has there been a study of the effectiveness or the need for bicycle paths to run basically from 413 to the high school? As we understand it, the loop path that basically just goes to high school loops back. Is there justification for travel along that corridor, or is it just a loop exercise? Which is great, but Middletown's Grand Plan also talks about connectivity of states, train stations to neighborhoods, connecting to Creek Park from other areas, not just neighboring neighborhoods. So, again, to reiterate, is there a need for this bike path? Although I'm certainly in favor of bike paths, I think it'd be a much more effective use of taxpayer funds to connect to the train station. I see that there is a path that was added after residents had asked about the pedestrian connection, but really asked in further connections and continue with and put a path on both sides of 413, not just one side. Some of the other questions I have is the noise walls that Mr. Warsa, some of us had mentioned, if it's really necessary or effective. So I would ask that question too. I've read a lot of studies that noise walls are not that effective when we're talking about houses that are a block away, maybe effective for houses that are right next to noise wall itself, but there's also there the aesthetics of a noise wall and that your greed will come. So I ask the town to think carefully about what they're inviting how they're going to spend that more effectively. One other thing, like I mentioned, Mr. West had mentioned that there'll be reduced congestion at 213, and that's primarily because traffic will be transferred to 413 and Maple Avenue and fun through Langhorrow. I would ask the residents and supervisors to think carefully about how it might affect the neighborhood boroughs. People always think you should, want to treat others you'd like to be treated. So eventually transferring traffic from one base to other borough doesn't seem fair at all. So I'd ask you to think about that and maybe work together with neighboring boroughs about how can collectively push Penn to consider other routes such as 295 and town bypass as a way to work around the borough and using roads that are currently designed for that speed and volume. So back Middletown, if there really is a needed point to endorse plan, because as is said, the plan currently favors Middletown, there really is perhaps no reason to comment on the plan, see what comes of it, and try and work with some neighboring municipalities to see if we can get a better example. There are some alternatives that Langhorrow has forth that would be very helpful. I think Middletown saw what those examples were, using path calming, pedestrian-oriented solutions. And a great example, Middletown works to implement their comprehensive plan and essentially create an example for Middletown to use on other pedestrian-oriented projects that they have to implement in the future. So, very for you and forward to.
Thank you. Some of those questions were almost sort of rhetorical in the sense that they're, encouraging questions that we'd be asking as we move forward the process. But, I need to go forward. I think it's important Middletown express a position on that. I would like to hear, there's this great inconsistency that we keep coming back to, which is the gentleman from Langhorne Borough, as a resident of the borough, his feeling is that the project is going to funnel traffic into the borough and increase congestion in the borough. But we've heard differing points that, to the contrary, this is actually going to relieve congestion, that the people traveling through the borough are people that are intentionally traveling to borough. They're going to be using it as a cut-through point. That's difficult for us as supervisors to tell. We're not traffic engineers ourselves. And so, again, this is an area where we're looking for, I guess, Mr. Worcester, I keep coming back to you. I don't know if you have thoughts on it one way or the other, and I'm not necessarily suggesting we have to resolve all these issues tonight. I think, though, that it's an issue we're going to have to address head-on at some point.
Well, I don't have studies but I'll tell you that traffic ends up going, and you've heard it before because you've all been on side or other with this. It's like water. And it's going to go the path of least resistance. Kind of a cliche, but what's going to happen at 13 is people that get off at 413 are going to be able to get off one at 13 and not going to have to meander around get there. They're going to go there no matter what, whether it's going to 213 or Maple Avenue or any other way to get to 413. If they want to get to 413, they're going to get off at the 413 of US 1. That's what's going to happen. So Penn has put in place a couple things to help with that. They're putting it around about to slow people down as they come from the new interchange. Then you make the loop down the left to 413. Well, that's be a roundabout now. That just slow people down to go on the roundabout and into the borough. So traffic's going to get where it needs to go, no matter what. And we're just giving people a better, safer alternative to do that. Is it going to increase the traffic? I don't know. I don't have the studies to prove or disprove that in front of me now, but I do know that traffic that's destined 413 in that part of community is going to take that new bypass. And instead of going to 213 and make a left and down to down Maple to 413 and they go to go that way. That's what happens. Some will go down Southwest Middletown, like I said. So that's going to happen anymore. And I think that's a good thing. It relieves the congestion within our communities, keeps it on main roads.
Thank you.
One of the things that resonates with me is I actually spoke to a lot of residents in Parkland last fall, and they did complain about the traffic coming off of that access road, speeding on the road to Poplar Firefighter Park. So I think good residents on both sides of it, where they're going to be upset they lose that access. I think for the most part, it'll be safer roads that are out that access point. And I just hear a lot of those residents in my head right now. To me, those stories of course, being down the street.
We could probably go on about this for a really long time, and it's getting late. What I mean, and I would like to do with point is call a motion to at least instruct our township manager to offer or at least communicate general support for the project to Penn on behalf of Middletown Township Board of Supervisors. So I were to make that motion, there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. There's been a motion and a second to communicate general support of the route project to PennDOT. Are there any board questions? Are there any questions from the public? Yes, ma'am. Just state your name and address, please.
My name is Carol Setter, and I live at 129 West Marshall Avenue. With Langhorne Open Space, Director of Funding Development. And Langhorne Open Space is an organization, about 200 little families. About a third of our families, or fifth of our families live in Middletown, and about a half of families live in Langhorne Borough. So actually, is the chairman of a planning mission, and he's done a very careful study. So careful, sometimes my head spins, I try to listen to him, of all the different alternatives, and he's very carefully studied is happening with PennDOT plan. I have no problem with what PennDOT does tries to do. I think probably Pennsylvania has the largest number of highways, large number of miles, I believe, in the United States, of state highway. So it's got a huge job, and you can't help but appreciate what they have to do. This, it seems like seems to be a mistake, like a gap information. Front Langhorne officials did not find out about a meeting that very greatly is going to affect the borough. Simply not notified of the meeting and challenging this as being something, there was no chance for Langhorne Borough to comment at the time of the meeting, and that is being challenged. So I'm urging tonight that you don't come to conclusion such as your chairman is urging to do. I expect you need to move forward. I understand that, but I'm just hoping they will wait a little longer. Families that Langhorne Open Space has that are in Middletown Township seem to be just discovering this, and we are hearing, we're beginning to hear from them. What's going on? How can we be doing this? The 10, for instance, so many things. The car show, the Langhorne Auto Association, and the Langhorne Business Association has. I think we're 300 cars one year. It is very popular with Middletown residents as well as Langhorne Borough. The Garden Club, the Lanes Garden Club, many members from Middletown Township in the Garden Club. It's not, they meet in Langhorne Borough. It's really many different townships that belong. And they have thousands of people come to that every year. This is going to make any of these activities, the flea market that's so popular at Langhorne Heritage Farm. It's hard to figure out how these people will get into and out of borough. One of the things that is interesting that I heard a former president of Langhorne Borough Council say at a recent meeting is that never in all his experience, and he was president 4 years, never had seen an issue so unite the people. The people in Langhorne are 99% against this and fearful of it will do, literally splitting town into. I watched what study you've seen. I heard them quoted the west side town are opposed to this in town being separated from the rest of the town, and it was one of concerns of Middletown friends who their letter penned. Another thing that's going to be split off town is the library, and children will be having crossed the highway to the library. Children will be having crossed the highway to the playground. The whole part of town is going to be separated by more traffic. So I'm just saying.
Can I just say why you're here, and I value your experience and the role that you currently serve in, because we.
But in my understanding of, and as I study map and I learn at it quite a bit, if you take fear for possible inroads of tributaries away and you put all into a flow, well then you just end up with more river, or in this case more traffic, because you're going to take away 4 ways that people could get into that part between the high school and Langhorne Borough. They only have one way left, and that is 14, right past the African Methodist Church, which, by the way, its foundations are already in trouble because of the big trucks that go through. And they have a sidewalk right outside church. Their sidewalk is about this wide, and that all separates them from 13. So I appreciate what our expert has said here about end up finding ways to make things more safe. And we agree those what call them, those bars out there in the highway, the barriers, those are not safe. They're outdated. They need to go. But you can't create more traffic. Some other people and protect a building that is noted for being one of the oldest in America, the African Methodist Evangelical Church.
So so us moving in with this and giving, PennDOT hasn't made any decisions yet. Were there stuff in there about access road in general still looking at? Is that correct?
They do have.
The motion that you just made was for general support.
Exactly. So we're just making a motion of general support to move this forward. PennDOT has not, we're still discussion and open, they're taking comment from the public about access roads and the plan. I'm correct in this, correct? So we're moving ahead with getting this moving, just giving our approval for moving ahead, not saying that they're going to take all the access roads, definitely. They're still looking at this thing. So definitely Langhorne or anybody wants to, or encouraged to be going to PennDOT with common solutions.
Actually, we were told the deadline was passed. We were not told that. We were told opposite answer to that.
Comments?
I can't. It's regrettable what you're saying about the lack of notice or participation that Langhorne Borough afford. And let me unequivocally, we value tremendously our relationship with our neighboring municipality, probably Langhorne Borough the most. We are connected, exactly as I said. All of us spend time in your borough, and so we sympathize with you, and so please know, I'm concerned about the impact to our community and all of the different community organizations that you mentioned. And I think Ms. Cole is correct that at least what my motion intend to do is to communicate to PennDOT this support generally for the Route 1 improvement project with details that we're all discussing remaining to be considered and discussed. And to your question, I know what DOT's lines are not. I can only tell you that what we've been told, we're still listening and welcoming public input. They are still going to have these opportunities, public plan displays for the book to come. And certainly they're still looking for feedback from us because we haven't get to that.
I want to thank you for taking the time. Listen to me, and I feel that you're right. There is a close relationship between Middletown, who literally engulfs and surrounds almost Langhorne Borough. You have 50,000 people, you have 1,700 people. In many ways, provide kind of a magnet type of relationship with Middleton because the borough is so different, so tiny, so old, so historic, and has so many cultural organizations.
This notion of imputed traffic, when you improve and add Cloverleaf and that sort of thing, it's going to come an easier way for people to fall onto the route, as opposed to the ones that folks describe in meandering neighborhoods. So in any event, we strongly believe there's a lot of traffic coming up north on 413 in Langhorne Borough, and parenthetically onto Middletown, where 14 is a disaster. I heard people talking about the Stone Meadow Farm thing earlier. It's just overburdened with traffic, and there's much more beyond the borough. I would argue that you Middletown citizens that are traveling through that whole intersection in the center of Langhorne Borough, which will be worse, and then also the equally bad intersection down at 14 Edgetown Pike. Is head towards St. Mary's in the bypass. So anyway, that's our thought on that. The traffic will definitely increase. In fact, we heard a traffic engineer that disputed some of DOT's fears about traffic impacts in the borough. In fact, it'll be much worse than they're predicting. Another point I want to make is that we are not opposed to the entire project, the citizens of Langhorne Borough. We totally endorse the safety improvements. I think curbs, like you said, designed, I was back, maybe as far back as the 40s or 50s. It was designed, and it's all antiquated now. You have curbs on a superhighway. It makes no sense whatsoever. And the concrete dividers and all that sort of thing. Talking about raising the height of some of the bridges for safety purposes, all of that we think is great. Our biggest opposition is to the double cloverleafs, which we feel are unnecessary. Feel we keep the same access points that we have. In fact, the safety issue was brought earlier. And then speak at least Bell Avenue, I believe, there's been really no history of major accidents there or high accident volume at that intersection. So we believe that's really a problem. But we do endorse all the safety improvements on Route 1 itself. So that's essentially the borough's position on it. I know you're trying to give some sort of endorsement to PennDOT this evening. There's any way to maybe introduce nuances resolution where in just the safety improvements, as we do with Route 1, suppose cloverleafs, which we feel are completely unnecessary, and in fact, they're going to worsen safety, traffic, congestion, all that within Langborough and on to 413 into town. So thank you again. What I think I discovered when I looked up the specifics to the meeting tonight is, do you folks enact meet 2 weeks? Or once a month?
Well, most of the year, we meet every 2 weeks. During the summer months, we tend to meet 1 month, and then I believe one time in December, it's only 1 month, but all meeting dates are posted on the website.
Yeah, God bless for doing every 2 weeks. Just remarkable. Thank you.
That's a step down. Clearly, we've from several residents from Langhorne Borough, and I thought tonight we heard from different residents in Langhorne Borough. We understand what it does to hear from more people on this.
Yeah, and I think we maybe emphasize communication from PennDOT standpoint as well. Maybe as we communicate our recommendations, saying, you guys also need to start reaching out and making sure that you're getting the feedback as well.
Absolutely. That's a great point. Okay. So that brings us to other business. So I will start with, I'm sorry, I don't know what your name is. Who is here from Kessler, from Remington. Thank you very much. I apologize. Mr. Esposito.
Just to announce that the board held an executive session prior to tonight's meeting to discuss litigation matters. I think we've heard from enough, so that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Esposito. Mr. Cools.
Nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hannah.
I just recommend all citizens check out the traffic study and provide input because it's needed.
Thank you, Hannah. Ms. Payne.
Nothing further.
Ms. Payne.
No further.
Ms. Cole. I think for other than, I'd just like to one more time reiterate my sincere appreciation and thanks to the volunteer companies and to our own 244 Office of Fire and Emergency Management, all their individuals who were involved with that. That's meeting on last Saturday to discuss our fire service in the town. It was just a really, really day. I'm optimistic about our ability to move forward some goals. So with that, I will move to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn. Thank you.